My father called me a failure at my graduation. So I decided to break the family legacy. I always knew my father wanted a version of me that I could never live up to, and for the longest time, I thought that meant I was broken. It started small, like it always does. I remember in middle school, I got a 93 on a math test. I was proud. I had stayed up 3 nights in a row working on those equations, practicing every problem I could find online. I walked up to him with the test paper in my hand, feeling this bubbling excitement I couldn't contain. He looked down at the grade, didn't smile, didn't even nod. Just said, "Where did the other 7% go?" 7%. That was all it took to make a 12-year-old boy feel like he wasn't enough, and that feeling? It didn't go away. It just grew with me. My dad is one of those hyper-driven, self-made types. Built his own real estate business from nothing, turned one apartment into a portfolio of properties across the city. He wore stress like armor, used silence as punishment, and saw emotions as distractions. My mom used to be the buffer between us, softening the edges. But she passed when I was 15 cancer, and after that, it was just him and me, living in a house that echoed more than it spoke. I wasn't failing, not by any reasonable standard. I graduated high school with honors. I was accepted into a top university. I chose marketing, which I was passionate about, loved psychology, loved human behavior, loved design. But in my dad's eyes, if it wasn't engineering or law or finance, it didn't count. "You want to make Instagram ads for a living?" he said once, shaking his head with this cold, disappointed smirk. "That's not work. That's a hobby." He never came to any of my college open days. Never asked about my projects. When I got my first paid internship sophomore year, he barely looked up from his laptop when I told him, but I kept going. I kept pushing. I kept hoping that maybe, just maybe, if I proved myself enough, he'd finally look at me like I was worth something. I spent 4 years working my ass off. I didn't party much. I took extra credits, stayed up nights on freelance gigs, built a portfolio from scratch. By the time graduation rolled around, I had 2 job offers, real ones. Good ones. One was a junior marketing analyst role at a major consumer brand, and the other was at a boutique creative agency in the city that I really admired. I picked the second one, even though the salary was a little lower, because the team was incredible, and I felt like I could grow there. My graduation day came. My dad showed up late, as usual, and sat in the back. I saw him once while I was walking across the stage. He didn't wave. Didn't clap. Just sat there, arms folded, eyes blank. Afterward, I found him standing near the exit. He didn't hug me. Didn't even say congratulations. His first words, "Now the real world begins. Let's see if this degree actually amounts to something." I laughed, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. Then he asked, "So which job did you pick?" I told him. Told him about the creative agency, how excited I was, how aligned it was with the kind of work I dreamed of doing. I talked about the projects, the brand campaigns, the amazing people I met during the interviews. He shook his head slowly and said, "So you're seriously going to waste your potential working for peanuts, selling colors and fonts to companies that don't matter?" I was stunned. Frozen. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "I raised a failure." I didn't say anything. I just nodded, turned around, and walked away from him for the first time in my life without trying to fix it. After graduation, I moved into a tiny studio downtown, barely big enough for a bed and desk. My dad didn't help with the deposit, didn't even ask if I needed anything. It was like I had become someone else to him, someone not worth acknowledging. I started work the following Monday. And for the first time in years, I felt like I belonged. I worked on branding decks, learned from insanely talented creatives, pitched a slogan that actually got used in a national campaign. I stayed late because I wanted to. My boss really saw me, and said, "You've got vision." I'd never heard that before. Vision. Not numbers. Not metrics. Vision. Meanwhile, my dad started sending short, cold texts every few weeks. "You still wasting time there? You should have taken the corporate offer. Could have been VP in 5 years. Come work with me. Real estate's where the money is." Each time I ignored it, the silence stretched longer between us. And honestly, I started to breathe better. One day, in the middle of a brainstorm session, I randomly remembered something from when I was 10. I was playing outside with a friend from school, Jacob, and we were pretending to be superheroes. I had this cheap plastic mask and a towel as a cape. I remember laughing so hard I fell over and scraped my knee. Blood was dripping, and I ran inside crying. My dad looked up from his phone and said, without even getting up, "Why are you playing like a baby? That's how you get hurt doing dumb things." He didn't even grab a bandage. My friend Jacob's mom ended up cleaning the cut when I went over to his house later. I had buried that memory. But sitting there, working on a pitch that would air in Times Square, it hit me how early the message had been planted: don't dream. Don't play. Don't waste time. Work. Win. Or be nothing. And in that moment, I finally gave myself permission to not carry that weight anymore. That moment, remembering that scraped knee, that towel cape, that offhand dismissal, it shifted something in me. I didn't want to become my father. I didn't want to live in a fortress built on silence, coldness, and conditional love. I didn't want to succeed by his definition if it meant being miserable every single day and passing that same misery to someone else someday. But here's the thing. Just because you decide to break free doesn't mean the past lets go quietly. About 3 months into my new job, my dad called. No warning. No text first. Just a straight-up call, like we talked regularly, which, by this point, we didn't. I hesitated before answering. My hand hovered over the screen for a second too long, and then I picked up, "Hey." He didn't say hi. He dove right in. "I need someone I can trust to help me manage the southern properties. The guy I had there bailed, and your cousin's too green. You know numbers. You're smart. Quit that toy job and come work with me. We'll make real money." It was quiet on my end. All I could hear was the ceiling fan above my desk clicking faintly in the background. Then he said something that finally made me speak. "Don't waste your life chasing validation. You're better than that." I laughed, actually laughed, like a bitter, tired kind of laugh, because the irony hit me like a punch in the throat. "Dad, that's all I ever wanted from you. Validation. And I never got it." There was a pause. I imagined him shifting in his chair, leaning forward like he always did when he was about to get serious. He said, "You think life's about feeling good? That's not how the world works. I gave you everything. I kept a roof over your head. You had food, clothes, school. I gave you a head start. You think I got that growing up? I slept on the floor of a 2-room shack with 6 siblings. You think my dad ever told me he was proud?" And that was the moment I realized he wasn't just talking to me. He was talking to the ghost of the man who raised him. He was still chasing something too. He just decided not to break the cycle, and I had, so I said, slowly, "And I'm grateful for that. I am. But I'm not going to spend my life repaying a debt that comes with strings attached. I want to live, not just survive." He went silent. Then he hung up. After that call, I didn't hear from him for weeks. No texts, no emails, nothing. And honestly, I thought that was it. That we were done, but life had one more twist lined up. A few months later, our agency landed a pitch with a major commercial real estate brand, big client, huge visibility. I didn't know until we started the account audit that one of the development groups under them was my dad's company. Not the whole thing, just a slice of one of his portfolios, but still. His logo was on our files. I sat in that conference room, staring at the slide deck, thinking, what are the odds? We weren't assigned to work directly with his office, but we were supposed to draft a rebranding strategy that would include all associated partners. Which meant I had a choice: stay quiet and hope no one noticed, or bring it up to my creative director. I went with the latter. I told her everything, that it was my dad's firm, that there was history, and that if she felt it would create tension, I'd gladly step aside from the account. She looked at me for a long second, then said, "You know his business better than anyone else in this building. You should be on this. Just be professional. Let your work speak for itself." So I did. We spent the next 6 weeks deep in strategy meetings, storyboarding ideas, revising taglines and building messaging that could elevate even the dullest parts of commercial property. When the final concept presentation came around, I walked into that boardroom knowing full well my father might be on the other end of that Zoom screen, and he was, fourth box from the left. Name labeled clearly. Wearing his usual suit. Face unreadable. When I began presenting our campaign concept Legacy with Vision, I spoke like I had nothing to prove. Because for the first time, I didn't. I talked through demographics, behavioral triggers, brand perception statistics, and visual hierarchy with the same energy I used to spend just trying to earn a compliment from him. He didn't interrupt. Didn't ask a single question. Just listened. When it ended, the CEO of the real estate brand clapped. Others nodded, complimented the clarity and creativity. My boss gave me a proud side glance that said more than words ever could, and my dad, he left the meeting without saying a thing. That silence used to destroy me. It used to make me question my worth. But that day, it felt like peace. Like the sound of a door gently closing behind you, not slammed in anger, just done. 2 weeks later, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was an old photo, me at 10 years old, holding a crumpled drawing of a superhero I'd made, beaming with my gap-toothed grin. I'd completely forgotten it existed. Taped to the back was a note. Just 5 words, written in blocky, mechanical handwriting I knew by heart. You were never a failure. That was it. No apology. No call. No explanation, and you know what? I didn't need one anymore. Now, a year later, I'm leading creative on 3 major accounts. I mentor 2 interns who remind me of who I was not long ago, hungry, unsure, quietly burning with ideas. I go home to a place filled with light, music, and people who get me. I haven't spoken to my father since that photo arrived. But I keep it in my drawer, not out of nostalgia, but as proof that healing doesn't always come in the way we want. Sometimes it comes in fragments, in imperfect offerings, in old photographs and unsent messages, but most importantly, I no longer define my value based on what he sees or doesn't see. I define it by how I live. By how I show up for others, and for myself. I'm not a failure, I just chose a different legacy.